how do you end up in a spot as a head coach where you know you have two backups in, there's 25 seconds left, you just took a penalty to push you further back, and you say, let's go for it, but previously, on 4th and 2 in their territory, you didn't go for that.
Yeah, and
you didn't even have the thought of going for it.
Yes, Jordan Love can't turn the ball over there. Can't happen.
Yeah, but again,
But it's not like he had pressure in his face and he watched it.
So on that fumble, here's where I struggle with it. Because
it was Darian Kennard, was it not?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But I struggle with it because we want LaFleur to be aggressive. And in that case, he was. And it seems like, and we've talked about this before with LaFleur prior to this game, Joshy, it seems like when we want him to be conservative, he goes aggressive. And when he goes aggressive, we want him to be conservative. Yes. And this was another example of that. But I appreciate the attempt for aggressiveness. Because that would have made the game 21-2 had they scored a touchdown, or 17-2 had they kicked a field goal.
I always want coaches and offensive play callers to be more aggressive than that.
I agree with that.
But I do think there is context that matters. Like the decision to go aggressive on 3rd and 2 against the Browns, which then ended in a interception, to me didn't make sense because the Browns offense had yet to move the ball. Mm-hmm. And in that scenario, you go, hey, we could probably, or we have a chance of getting this as a run play, probably just as much as a pass play at this situation with the way our offense is going. Mm-hmm. Why would we not, in this situation, just run it, play ball security, and then trust the defense who's made Joe Flacco look pedestrian?
Yeah.
Then you fast forward to a early game situation, first half, 4th and 2 on their side of the ball. They're a good offense, but here we have an opportunity to really put it to them, to give us a distinct advantage. We are in plus territory. It's not going to be as damaging if this were to happen on the other side of the 50. He then decides to not go for it. And then moments later, after getting pushed back even further than you originally intended, with only 25 seconds left on the clock, he decides, let's call some verts here and try and get a big chunk gain to get us in field goal position. All three of those decisions were the wrong ones he made at the wrong time.
You're out on the floor, aren't you?
Big time.
Yeah, I can tell.
I do have, I stock up to the bye week on Monday. I have a good stat. So I stock up the bye week because I think they need a reset. A certain team last year was 2-2 going into a week 5 bye week, then rattled off 10 straight wins after the week 5 bye and won the Super Bowl last year. Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, so I'm glad you bring that up because I think this is actually very comparable. Here's why. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl and rattle off 10 straight wins after the bye. But at the week 5 point of last season, all the chatter out of Philadelphia was that Nick Sirianni needed to go. And that Nick Sirianni wasn't cut out for the job he was in.
To be clear, I'm not going that far.
I know you're not.
Yeah.
But you are, I don't want to say out on the floor, but you are down, very big time down on the floor. And trust me, and I know you don't need to hear this from me for validation, but I know you are not alone. In fact, you might even be in the majority by being down on the floor. I struggle by saying I'm out or I'm down on the floor because I don't think the last 2 weeks are indicative of the head coach he is. I just don't. I think he's a better head coach. Has he had his problems with time management? Yes, he has. And it's year 7, so you better start learning from it sooner than later. But I'm not going to bring up the excuse that I've banned from the show, but I'm going to bring it up. They are the youngest team in the league. And I don't think that's an excuse for tying that game on Sunday. I just don't.
I think
you have a 6th-year quarterback who needs to be better in that situation.
I think that excuse or explanation is fine and it's understandable. But in that situation, that makes a head coach even more important. I would love if Jordan would have taken control and said, hey, even though this guy isn't getting us into the correct 2-minute drill, I got to do it here. I'm also not convinced, and no one has said this, no one has admitted to it, but I'm not convinced they weren't told to go that slow.
No, I'm not either.
Right. Matt LaFleur made it seem like that was lack of communication or miscommunication. I think there's a potential we need to drain the clock as much as possible was communicated. And then, sure, he might have decided this is when we flip, but he sure didn't stress it at every opportunity he had then thereafter.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. So, look, it's troublesome. I get why there's LaFleur doubters. I do believe, to Will's point, which I'm glad you brought that up, Will. Thanks for doing that. It's good context about good football teams. It's the first quarter of the season.
Yes, they struggle. I'm down on LaFleur. I'm not out on him.
Because I think, you've seen the whole picture. This is a good head coach. And we took a lot of phone calls on LaFleur this week across all of our shows. We have. Frankly, he's the hot button topic for a reason, because it has not been his brightest showing through the first quarter of the season as we enter the bye week. But I want to make something clear on Matt LaFleur. I do believe he's a good play caller. I do believe he's a good offensive mind. Mm-hmm. I don't think he gets enough credit for revitalizing Aaron Rodgers' career, because he did. He helped him win 2 more MVPs. The job that Matt LaFleur took, it was a hire not a lot of people liked, because he was an unproven offensive mind.
Were they the 29th offense in Tennessee?
I think it was 27th.
Yeah.
It was. They were like a bottom 5, bottom 6 group in Tennessee the one year he was the offensive coordinator there. So it was a hire that a lot of people didn't understand. But I think very quickly us as Packers fans went, oh, okay, maybe Mark Murphy does know a thing or two about hiring a head coach. They go on to be the 1 seed. They go on to have the best record in football several years in a row. They go on to win the NFC North and continue their terror there after a year or 2 off. And it seemed like LaFleur was helping turn this thing around. And then we got to the ultimate.
I do think it's important to mention, because we've got a thread that we're pulling throughout this entirety of this. Matt LaFleur's first year, they get the first round bye. They are in an NFC championship game.
19 they were, yes.
He then makes the fateful decision.
That was San Francisco.
To kick a field goal, down 1 score, to stay.
Yeah, make a 1-score game, 1-score game.
Which goes to decision making.
And game management.
Yes.
And then 2020, they were the 1 seed again. Yeah, they were.
No, 19 they got blown out by San Francisco. 2020 was the Tampa Bay 1-score game, a 1-score game.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Regardless, they get back there 2020, Tampa Bay. Again, I think Aaron Rodgers gets some criticism for that game. Mm-hmm. But Matt LaFleur does too, because that was a game they were in and probably should have won. That is the game that is probably second to the Seattle NFC Championship loss that makes me the most depressed as a Packers fan, because that felt like their best chance to get there.
Scotty Miller.
Yeah, burning. And
Kevin
King. Yeah, Kevin King game. So, and then, the real test for Matt LaFleur was 23. Mm-hmm. It's the youngest team in the league, and that year I will allow you to use that as an excuse. It's the who is Jordan Love year? What can he be? And I thought Matt LaFleur did a terrific job of elevating him and that offense after a kind of a weird start. And they had some weird losses in there, too, even in the stretch where Love was so great at the end of the year. But winning a playoff game with that group is a huge feather in his cap in the fashion in which they did. And they were in that game with San Francisco in the divisional round, who ended up winning the NFC. Last year, there were some highs and lows with LaFleur, but I think a significant high that he deserves credit for again is what he did with Malik Willis on short notice. They won back-to-back games with Malik Willis at quarterback just a couple weeks after they acquire him via trade with Tennessee. And without those 2 wins, breaking news, the Packers don't make the playoffs last year. And I know they lost in Philadelphia and Jordan Love had some bad plays and yada, yada. But there's not all bad about LaFleur. And I do think he's a really good head coach. And I do think he's going to learn from this. And I think with the bye week and Cincinnati coming to town the following week, this is a team that is still really good, still one of the best in the NFC, still a front runner to win the NFC North, and still a team that should be considered one of the best contenders in the entire league. And they'll get back to that, similarly to how Philadelphia did a year ago. So let's pump the brakes on fire LaFleur, because this guy is still a really good head coach. And I still think he is a guy that could win a Super Bowl with Green Bay. Because I think if he was fired, hypothetically, I think 25 or 26 teams are lining up to get him as their head coach. That's how good of a coach I think he is, and that's how I think he's viewed in the league. So let's pump the brakes on all the fire LaFleur crap, because this guy is a really damn good head coach, and I think he's going to continue to prove it in the regular season after the bye week.
I'm giving him end of the season before I say that. And
yeah, if there's 7, oh boy, I have to do math now with the tie. I was going to say if they're 7-10. If they're 7-9-1.
Yes.
Then I think you certainly have a case to make.
But I think there can be continual, does decision making improve? Do they clean up the way they've been behaving in games they should win. I think there's a lot riding on Matt LaFleur here, and I think if we're in the spot of the lame duck year that Ed Policy talked about, and let's say they finish 10 wins, how can you sign him to anything more than another 1-year extension?